Alright, so I am going to show you Lightener application on virgin hair. So hair that's never been lightened before. I'm going to start, I just took my Vaseline, so any type of barrier cream, put it on the back of my hand. I'm going to apply it to her hairline but not touching her hair. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this all over her head because I don't want to have to get it out again. Over the top of the ear. Along the back. So when doing this, we are going to leave a 1/2 inch at the scalp because the heat from the scalp is going to make that process faster. And we're also going to leave out just about 1 inch or so of porous ends. On a real client, you would use your judgment on where the porous ends start because that also is going to process faster. So I'm going to start with my cholesterol, which is my mock lightener. Okay, using the tip of my brush to part off my sections. Now these are actually 1/8 inch sections, so they're even thinner than when we're applying regular color because bleach is drier and it doesn't saturate as much. So I'm going to start that 1/2 inch from the scalp. If you have a hard time eyeing that, if you take your knuckle, and about half of your knuckle will show you about what a 1/2 inch is. Okay. I'm going to paint on both sides. Okay, and you can put your hand behind it. And come down to that porous end, as we're calling it, on both sides. And I like to take my brush, lay it against the scalp, and cross it over. Make sure you're not putting it in your client's face. You don't want to get bleach in their eye. So same thing, take another 1/8 inch section, start about halfway. You got to follow the curve of the head, so it shouldn't be farther away on the corners and closer in the middle. So 1/2 inch all the way down. Make sure you fully saturate. Work it through those porous ends. Flip. Leave out your last little bit of ends and flip. So for time purposes, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but what you would do is about the last 10 or 15 minutes of when your lightener is on, and when it's about when the scalp and ends are about 2 levels darker, or I'm sorry, when the mid shaft is about 2 levels away from where you want it to be, then you'll go back and touch up your scalp. So let's say in here was up to a level 6 and you want it to end at a level 8, then you will go back and touch up your scalp area and bring it through your ends. Make sure that when you do this in class that you let us see that you know to leave out the scalp area and the ends. So that's the most important part with the lightener. You don't want to get hot roots where the roots are a lot brighter than the rest of it, and that's what will happen if you apply it to the entire section all at one time. Also, when you're done, you'd want to go back through and make sure you outline those quadrants. When you had your whole section done, you don't want to smash this all together because it needs to be able to breathe, to process evenly. So go ahead and bring it back over the head and leave your sections open. it's not in her face, and that's it. All right, do you want me to move right on to the next one? Okay. All right, so next we're gonna do a retouch for using Lightener. So with the retouch, it's gonna be very similar. We're going to, says that she has 1 inch of regrowth, okay? So what you're gonna do is take those 1/8 inch sections, and you're still gonna stay a 1/2 inch away from the scalp. So you'll only be doing initially that first, or I should say last 1/2 inch of regrowth. For the same reason, because what'll happen if you apply it to all the regrowth at once, if they have more than a 1/2 inch, what's right next to the scalp is gonna get a lot brighter than what's back here. So you're gonna have maybe like a level 9 here, and it only gets to a level 8, and it'll, when you hold the hair out, you'll see bands of different levels. So go through, still staying that 1/2 inch. Make sure I'm following the curve of the head. Okay, so if I didn't follow the curve of the head, it might look something like this. So if I just made a straight line all the way across, and I went like this, you can see that this is actually a longer point than from here. Okay, so this hair wouldn't process as even. So you wanna make sure that if the head rounds away from you, that you follow the round of the head. Inch section. Go right up to your line of demarcation, so where the previous color was, but not overlapping, because that can cause breakage. Okay, and then same thing, when this is the last 10-15 minutes or 2 levels from where you want your end result to be, that's when you're going to go back through and touch up all the way to the scalp. Front and back of each section. This is also when you would go through and outline your quadrants. And then once again, you bring everything down so it's got room to breathe, never smash it all together. Okay. And then we're doing foils and weave, or I mean weave and slice. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, oh shoot. You don't have a pintail comb. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and show weaving. So anytime we do a foil, first you want to make sure that you have a really straight part. So we're going to clip that out of the way. I always work bottom to top, so I don't have to flip my foils back and forth as much. Your section should never be bigger than a piece side, because once you fold your foils in, we don't want to pull any hair. So to weave, I'm going to take the top about 1/8 of an inch off of my section and separate the two. Then up near the scalp, I'm going to take my comb and up and down and alternate. And I'm going to take the top hair, drop the bottom, so that I have 2 sections like this. This can fall. Okay, so you'll see what that looks like. Take my foil and my comb. I like to bend my foil towards me, but you can go the opposite way too. Get it nice and smooth. Lift the hair up and put the foil right at that scalp line. Bring the hair back down and pull down on the hair and push against the foil. Slide your comb out, leave it in your hand, Then you're gonna grab your color lightener, starting about an inch down. And this is what I call the glue. So this is what's gonna glue the hair to the foil. Okay, put your hand behind it. If the hair goes past the foil, you can take it and wind it up into the foil. With whatever's left on your brush, then you're gonna go up towards the scalp. You don't wanna start right at the scalp with your color, because if you have too much on your brush, it can leak out and cause lines. So then I fold up so that my foils meet. Fold up again. Okay, we're never smashing. So I take my comb right where my part line is and fold in. And right where the hairline is and fold in. Okay. And then depending on how many highlights you want, you'll take anything from 1/8 to 1/2 inch in between your foils. So I'm going to do about 1/4 of an inch between. Same thing. Take my line right off the top. Separate the hair. Come in near the scalp. Up and down motion. Take the top part. Drop the bottom. So I have my zigzag. Take your foil. Hold it towards you, pick the hair up, right at the scalp line, pull the hair and push against the scalp, slide your comb out, start about an inch below, put your glue on, put your hand behind it. Make sure that you saturate the hair really well, because if you don't get enough that it can get through to the underside, you'll have splotches. Take whatever's left, work it towards the scalp. Now you're never gonna paint up over your foil. So if this is where my foil ends, that's where I end the color. I'm never gonna go up here and paint right against the scalp, or you'll have what looks like stripes at the scalp. Fold up so they meet. Fold up. And I never fold past my part line. So I don't wanna take this and fold here, because now this hair is not in the foil and it's gonna process differently. So right where my part line is for my section, that's where I fold in. I'll quickly do one more.
How many sections do you normally do for a foil?
I do 6 typically, because I don't want my sections to be wider than my foil is.
So typically that back part, you'd actually have 3 sections.
Yes.
So kind of the same part you use for
Yes. You always want your sections to be thin enough that you can, if you put something, like if this was a newspaper behind it, I'd be able to see the letters. If your section is too thick, you're going to be too far away from the scalp, and I'll show you that when we do the weaving, or I'm sorry, the slicing. And it also won't process fully. So I just kind of create a crease. I'm not smashing it because bleach expands as it processes, and if you smash it, it might bubble out the top. Okay, so I'm gonna move over here and show slicing. So very similar. I'm gonna make sure I get straight parts. And basically, we're just leaving out a step. So I'm gonna take that 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch section of hair off the top, push everything else down, and then I'm not gonna do my up and down. So I grab my foil. I like to put it towards me, lift the hair up right at that line, grab it and pull down. Same thing, I'm gonna start slightly below, put my glue on, work it through. Anything that goes past the foil, I'm gonna wind it around and up into the foil and work up towards the scalp. if I make my sections too big with either weaving or slicing, it's not going to be close enough to the scalp, and it's going to look like their highlights are already grown out. So I'll show you an example of that. So if I take this whole section and I try to put this into a foil, lift it up, my foil can't get that hair because it's too thick, okay? So if I put my color on there, it's only gonna color from there down. So it's gonna look like she already has regrowth, okay? And she is not paying to have hair that looks like it already has regrowth, right? But if I make my slice thinner, lift it up, see how much closer I can get to the scalp. Okay, so that will help you get nice tight foils too. So down through the ends, swirl up, making sure every part of the hair is saturated, and work towards the scalp. Now if you want really chunky highlights, you would not just take a really big slice because of what I showed you, how it isn't gonna look close to the scalp. If I wanted a thicker slice, I'm gonna put one foil in, and then I'm gonna do another foil right next to it and not leave any hair in between. And that's how you'll get a thicker slice. If you want it really chunky, you might even do 3 right next to each other.